The cardboard box slipped slightly in Hannah's trembling hands as she stepped through the front doors of Liberty Memorial Hospital in Norfolk, Virginia. Inside the box were 15 years of memories, a worn Bible, a framed picture of her late parents, a faded coffee mug that read Nurses Heal Hearts, and the navy blue scrub top she had proudly worn through countless nights of saving lives. Every employee in the crowded lobby watched in complete silence as security escorted her toward the parking lot like a criminal. Some nurses quietly cried. Others looked away, terrified that speaking up would cost them their own jobs. Hannah never imagined that the place she had faithfully served for over a decade would throw her away for doing the right thing. But what nobody, not the arrogant hospital director, not the physicians who ignored her warning, and certainly not the security guards walking beside her, could have imagined was that before driving away, Hannah would make one phone call. Less than an hour later, black SUVs would roar into the hospital entrance, Navy SEALs would step out, and the people responsible for ruining her life would finally understand that some mistakes cannot be hidden. If you believe kindness should never be punished and that good people deserve second chances, please like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe for more emotional stories that restore faith in humanity. Hannah Collins had never become a nurse for recognition or money. She became a nurse because she understood pain. When she was 16 years old, her mother passed away after a long illness. During those heartbreaking months, one compassionate nurse named Grace treated her mother with extraordinary dignity and comfort. That nurse didn't just care for a patient, she cared for an entire family. From that day forward, Hannah promised herself she would spend her life giving that same comfort to others. She worked 2 jobs to pay for nursing school, graduated with honors, and devoted every year afterward to caring for military families throughout coastal Virginia. Patients adored her because she listened. Veterans trusted her because she never rushed them. Children smiled when she entered the room because she somehow made hospitals feel less frightening. Even exhausted doctors often admitted that Hannah noticed details everyone else missed. Unfortunately, not everyone valued compassion. The hospital's executive administrator, Gregory Warren, cared far more about financial reports, inspection scores, and public image than patient safety. Under his leadership, nurses were constantly pressured to move patients through the emergency department faster. Every delay became another lecture. Every complaint became another threat. Staff shortages grew worse each month, yet executives celebrated record profits while nurses skipped meals and worked double shifts. Many employees quietly accepted the situation. Hannah never could. One stormy Tuesday evening, paramedics rushed an unconscious man into the emergency department following what appeared to be a serious vehicle accident near a naval installation. The patient arrived without identification because his mission required confidentiality. Several government officials quietly accompanied the ambulance but remained outside treatment areas. The emergency department was overflowing. Doctors hurried from room to room. Machines beeped continuously. Families waited anxiously. Within minutes, physicians believed the patient had stabilized after initial treatment. Orders were prepared to transfer him to another unit. But Hannah noticed something everyone else overlooked. His skin had become unusually pale. His pulse was weakening. Tiny changes in his breathing suggested hidden internal bleeding. Experience told her something was terribly wrong. She respectfully requested additional imaging before the transfer. The attending physician dismissed her concerns. Gregory Warren, already furious about emergency room delays, overheard the discussion. In front of patients, visitors, and nearly every employee nearby, he accused Hannah of creating unnecessary panic, questioning physicians, and slowing hospital operations. Still, Hannah refused to ignore what her instincts told her. She remained beside the patient's bed, checking every monitor and every change in his condition. Then disaster struck. Only minutes later, alarms erupted throughout the trauma room. The patient went into cardiac arrest. Doctors rushed back. Emergency surgery was ordered immediately. Surgeons soon discovered catastrophic internal bleeding exactly where Hannah believed it would be. The operation lasted hours. Against overwhelming odds, the patient survived. Instead of thanking Hannah for saving precious time, hospital executives panicked. If investigators discovered experienced nursing warnings had been ignored, the hospital could face devastating consequences. Someone had to become the scapegoat. They chose Hannah. Without conducting a proper investigation, Gregory Warren ordered human resources to terminate her employment immediately. 15 years of flawless service disappeared beneath one signature. Security escorted her from the building before she could even say goodbye to co-workers. The humiliation spread through the hospital like wildfire. Some nurses wanted to protest. Others feared losing everything. No one spoke. Outside, heavy rain soaked the empty parking lot. Hannah carefully placed the cardboard box into her aging car. She stared at the hospital one final time. Then she unlocked her phone. Among hundreds of contacts was one number she hadn't called in nearly 9 years. She pressed it. When the voice answered, Hannah calmly explained everything. She described the ignored warning. She described being fired. Then she quietly said 5 unforgettable words. Fire them all. Enough hiding. She wasn't asking for revenge. She was asking for accountability. The man who answered understood immediately. The unconscious patient whose life Hannah had protected was Chief Petty Officer Samuel Walker, a highly decorated Navy SEAL involved in sensitive operations. His identity had intentionally been concealed. The military had already begun asking difficult questions about why his condition nearly became fatal inside one of America's respected hospitals. Hannah's phone call confirmed their worst fears. 45 minutes later, employees gathered near the hospital entrance as 6 black government SUVs entered the parking lot. Several uniformed Navy officers stepped out first. Behind them walked men wearing plain clothes. They didn't need uniforms. Everyone recognized the unmistakable confidence, discipline, and quiet focus carried by elite warriors. Whispers filled the lobby. Navy SEALs. Gregory Warren smiled confidently, assuming they had arrived to thank hospital leadership for saving an American hero. Instead, federal investigators presented official credentials. Every surveillance recording was seized. Every medical record was secured. Computer servers were locked. Emails were preserved. No administrator was allowed to leave. The atmosphere changed instantly. Fear replaced arrogance. Investigators interviewed every employee separately. For years, many nurses had remained silent. Now they finally spoke. One nurse admitted Hannah warned physicians repeatedly. Another produced handwritten notes documenting ignored concerns. A respiratory therapist confirmed Hannah personally delayed the transfer that ultimately saved Samuel's life. A young resident physician confessed he wanted additional testing but felt pressured by administration to move patients faster. Security footage removed all doubt. It clearly showed Hannah refusing to abandon the patient despite direct orders. Hour after hour, the truth emerged. This investigation uncovered far more than one wrongful termination. Inspectors discovered altered staffing reports. Safety complaints had disappeared. Incident reports had been rewritten. Employees who reported dangerous conditions had been threatened or forced to resign. Gregory Warren's carefully protected reputation collapsed. Meanwhile, Samuel Walker slowly regained consciousness. Although weak, he immediately asked about the nurse who refused to leave his bedside. Investigators explained everything. Samuel listened quietly. Then he asked to meet Hannah personally. Several days later, Hannah sat alone inside a small church near Chesapeake Bay. She believed her nursing career had ended forever. She prayed not for justice. Not for revenge. Only that the patient she fought to save would fully recover. As she left the church, 3 black SUVs quietly pulled into the parking lot. Samuel Walker stepped out slowly, still recovering. Beside him stood several members of his SEAL team. Hannah looked embarrassed by the attention. She insisted she had simply done her job. Samuel gently smiled. He explained that warriors survive because someone refuses to quit when everyone else gives up. He handed Hannah a small wooden presentation box. Inside rested a Navy SEAL challenge coin. Among special operations teams, challenge coins represent profound respect. They cannot be purchased. They cannot be requested. They are earned. Samuel told Hannah she had earned theirs forever. For the first time since losing her job, Hannah cried. Not because of recognition. Because someone finally understood why she refused to walk away. The investigation concluded several weeks later. Gregory Warren was terminated. Multiple executives resigned. Several licensing boards launched disciplinary proceedings. Federal regulators required sweeping reforms. The hospital board issued a public apology acknowledging Hannah's extraordinary professionalism and courage. News stations across America shared her story. Letters poured in from nurses nationwide. Veterans thanked her. Former patients remembered her kindness years after receiving treatment. Parents wrote that nurses like Hannah restored their faith in healthcare. Eventually, the hospital offered Hannah her position back with a higher salary and a leadership role. She respectfully declined. Money could never repair broken trust. Instead, she accepted an opportunity to help establish a non-profit training center dedicated to ethical nursing, patient advocacy, and courageous leadership. Young nurses traveled from across the United States to hear her speak. She always ended every presentation with the same message. The easiest decision is not always the right decision. Patients may never remember every medicine you gave them, but they will always remember whether you cared. Samuel fully recovered and returned to serve alongside his teammates. Before deploying again, he visited Hannah one final time. He thanked her not only for saving his life, but for protecting the honor of every military family who trusted nurses to stand beside them during their darkest moments. Years later, a bronze plaque stood inside the training center. It didn't mention lawsuits. It didn't mention investigations. It didn't even mention Navy SEALs. It simply read, "Courage begins the moment compassion becomes more important than fear." Thousands of new nurses passed that plaque every year. Most never knew the woman who inspired it quietly worked in the building, smiling warmly as she welcomed each new class. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes kindness can still change lives, and subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us that goodness still exists in this world. Before we end, tell us in the comments, would you have risked your career to save a stranger's life? We'd truly love to read your answer. Hannah never became famous because she wanted attention. She became unforgettable because she chose compassion when fear would have been easier. Sometimes heroes don't wear camouflage. Sometimes they wear blue scrubs, carry tired eyes after 12-hour shifts, and quietly refuse to abandon someone who cannot fight for themselves. And sometimes, one courageous phone call changes countless lives forever.